Hey Mo,
How's it going?
good. How you doing?
It's Friday.
This is actually our second recording of this, so I
Don't-
hope that this goes well. Well, we were laughing too much in the first one.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So what are we talking about?
What are we talking about? We're talking about research statements and frequently asked questions about research statements that applicants to our program have.
Mhm.
So we thought we would weigh in with what we might know about it. So one quick question off the bat is just like, how long are research statements supposed to be?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's easy. That's 2 pages, double spaced, which is going to be pretty short. So you kind of have to be very concise in what you're
Yeah,
talking. Yeah.
yeah, that is short. Um,
And
so
then,
if
well, to go into like what actually goes in there, you need to kind of make the case for why you're interested in spending the next 5 years studying some general
yeah,
theme. Um,
right.
like I don't know what your experience has been, but my idea is that you don't necessarily have to have a specific research question, but you need to have some driving question that could be answered in a lot of different ways. Is that kind of how you structured your?
Yeah, I think that's the advice that I got too back, when I was applying to grad school was have a kind of core research question, tailor your apps to your schools, and each professor might have a slightly different approach to it, a different methodology, a different, take on that research question, or a research question is adjacent to yours or something, but find ways to kind of connect it to the different professors that you're interested in. And yeah, and I think that's kind of the take that I had as well, and try and focus on those topics. But
Yeah, I think an
yeah,
ideal world is that your interests are so aligned with the person whose lab you want to join that like they get excited reading about the
yeah,
question that interest you. Like that's just, perfect.
yeah, that's like the perfect research fit, which is also like one of the most important things to find, I think,
And
when
also
you're
hard.
and
So-
hard. Yeah, important and hard. It is. These are real things. Yeah. So in terms of like other stuff that goes into the research statement, like should you emphasize, what should you be emphasizing in it? Should you be emphasizing, I don't know, like your past experience or the methods that you took in research studies or stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, so those things are definitely relevant, and you should talk about the research experiences you've had, but definitely always frame it around the core research questions that you're interested in. So it's not just kind of a list of first I was in this lab and then I was in this lab.
Yeah, you
But
like want to build like a story.
yeah, sort of what is your narrative for how you became a, burgeoning scientist?
Yeah. Actually, I think that's a big question that often comes up is like how much of your story to put in the research statement, because it's like, we all have a lot going on in our lives, and that there might be things that no, it's COVID. Everyone's just hanging out. But no, like, how much of your personal information should go into research statement? Like you're reviewing apps, like what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, so to the extent that aspects of your personal experience or your identities are relevant to your research questions and kind of how you came motivated into those questions, like that makes sense to maybe mention in the research statement. But we actually have another personal statement option for people to fill out, which
Right.
is another 2 pages.
Right.
And there you can really give a fuller picture of who you are as an applicant and these more idiosyncratic kind of experience-based aspects of who you are and why you want to do psychological science.
Yeah. I think that like definitely tying in your life experiences to the research is the key, right? Like not just like listing off life events and letting them float out there, but it's like tie it into like this happened and here's a sentence or two on it, and then like, and this got me interested in XYZ, or this made me realize that one way you could study this thing that like that I was noticing was this. And then I started reading these, whatever. And so like quickly finding ways to pivot into that research to tie that narrative together of the different research experiences you've had or different work experiences you've had, is important. And probably also like just having other people read it will help you get a good sense of, is this okay to have in here? Is it like, how does it come across? I think that'd probably be my number one thing to say is like, start writing earlier if you can, so that you give more people more time to look at it. At some point, you'll probably get so much different advice that you don't even know like which one to follow. But that's when I think you've reached like a later stage of your statement where you're like, okay, all of the common things have been weeded out, and now it's just like people's
Now people are just
idiosyncratic.
in a circle around the same points.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And definitely if you happen to be in a place where either you have a mentor who is a faculty member, or even grad students, if there's grad students at your school, or anyone who's sort of in the place that you want to be eventually, those are the ideal people to get to.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
because they've seen all of this and they know. Yeah.
well, because like I had my sister, who is not at all in the field, look at my research statement, and she was very useful for pointing out typos, but not so much what
Like
goes in.
the substantive aspects of
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
ideally somebody
Yeah.
who's more in the field.
In this field. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think I sent mine to a handful of grad students in the field, who actually gave a lot of great detailed feedback. And I think I showed my undergrad advisor, maybe like one other professor from undergrad, which is interesting though, because I feel like a lot of that personal information can help motivate, but also like there can be times when maybe it's like too much, or you come across sharing it in a way that doesn't tie to your research. And I think that like now is actually a good example. I was talking to somebody last week about this, and they will keep it all anonymous, but like, because of COVID, they've had a really hard time with the semester, and so their grades are suffering. And I think, for example, like applicants now might be thinking like, what if I had a bad semester or a bad year in school? Like, what if I want to explain a bad GPA that's part of a piece of more personal information? Like, does that fit into the research statement? Because that, what if it doesn't connect to the research as directly? Or if it does, then maybe it's easy to weave in. But if it doesn't, like, is the research statement the spot to put something like that to explain a bad academic year or any kind of one-off thing like that?
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Yeah, so I think if you were going to put it somewhere in your, applicant materials, you could either mention it in the probably personal statement section, because that's sort of a personal aspect.
Yeah, that's true.
But then maybe what would be even better is if you can get whoever, of your letter writers that you most trust to actually put it in their letter.
Yeah.
And it's like they don't have a word limit on their letter. So you can spend all of your words on all of the interesting research ideas, and they can
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and that probably comes across, but that's a good idea. I think that works well if the letter writers if you can plug to them, if they are comfortable mentioning something like that to help explain. Yeah.
Well, and as somebody who's been a letter writer, like it's not at all weird for people to ask, like, oh, can you mention this aspect? And
yeah,
that's
I think
definitely
that's a real concern. I've talked to so many undergrads who are nervous to ask letter writers because maybe they don't feel like they just don't know, like they're in such senior positions, and they're nervous to say like, should I ask them to write me a letter, let alone should I ask if it's okay if they include something. I always feel like upfront honesty is like easy, right? It's easy to be like, here's what I'm asking, and then the person has full information to decide, do I feel comfortable writing you a strong letter? Do I feel comfortable including this?
Yeah.
I always feel like it's probably not, it's not that it's definitely like a good idea to ask them and just let them see and evaluate that situation.
Because the worst is they say no, and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then you know.
Exactly. They're like, meh. Yeah, I think that's good. I think these are just some of the research statement questions. I know there are a lot of other questions about applying to the program that will be covered in other segments and stuff, but hopefully this was helpful. It was nice to chat with you about it.
Oh yeah, this is how I love spending my Fridays.
This is my favorite way to cap off a Friday.
All right.
It's nice. It's nice. See you, Mo.